Way, way out there. Chapter 1. White Cliff. You see that light over there? That's where I was born. Up on White Cliff. It's a small rock in the middle of big ocean. They say White Cliff is held up by a great giant. I've never seen, but this is what I've been told. This is what I believed. Until the day I heard about the place way, way out there, where actual giants lived. Way, way out there is where big things reside. They're so big, they often have to travel out just so they can stretch their legs. I met one of them when I was little. Jo was her name. I met Jo when she was 12 and I was 8. She was still too young to grab too much attention from everyone, but I found her presence irresistible because she would always cast a shadow on my way. Chapter 2. The Shadow. I tried talking to her, but she didn't speak my tongue, so she just watched as I played. Then one day, she started to describe what I was doing in her own words. She kept doing this until I figured it out and learned how to speak like her. Where do you come from? Was the question I'd been wanting to ask. Way, way out there, she said, with the rest of the giants. Why are you always playing out here on your own? Don't you have friends? They're not allowed here on White Cliff. Why not? Well, White Cliff is a jumping off place. At the time, I couldn't explain myself so well. Whenever I ran out of words, I would change the topic and talk about something else. Why are you so big? Was another question I'd been wanting to ask. Jo laughed. Well, why are you so small? Sometimes I like to take the fastest way down the shore. I almost lost my grip. Jo had a laugh that could cut through chalk and flint. You think I'm big? Wait until you see my siblings. I have brothers twice my height and a sister with a girth thrice as mine. This made my imagination run wild. We're big because we do big things. The view from the shore made her look even larger. Are they as terrific as you look? I asked. You'd have to see for yourself. Way, way out there. She pointed west and splashed the ocean with her leg. Oops. I got drenched. How do I get there? She took out a red book from her pocket and tore a page. You will need a boat with a sail. The paper had markings on it. Follow it westward, and there you will find it. Chapter 3. The Riverside. I didn't see Jo after she handed me that map. She stopped dropping by White Cliff after that. Years later, I stopped playing by the cliff and started going down by the riverside. Every Friday, the library drove by the riverside and parked for as long as there was light. I was delighted to see several books about them giants, influential ones, infamous ones, and even regular ones that did big, big things. I wanted to do something similar. The librarian looked at the books I was borrowing. You know, just because you find it in a book doesn't mean it's true. How do you know? I asked. I don't. Not all the time. I just make sure a back door is open in my mind for some things to exit. He took out each card from inside the books and stamped a date on it. I had 1 week to finish reading. The following day, a special guest visited our home, a relative who came from way, way out there. He was bigger than any bear I ever saw, but not quite as big as Jo. He had an appetite that could empty an ice cream truck in an hour, so we ran out of food faster than usual. That Friday, I headed down by the riverside to return the books, to borrow new books, and to get more food. What a greedy bear! said the heron who stood across. "These aren't all for me. Would you share one with the lady? I'm bringing this back to family. They're counting on me." "If you say so, greedy." "Hey, I'm bigger than you." "Well, I thought the same about the size of your heart, but perhaps not." I was hoping it would hit the heron in the eye. "Nice pitch." I was cross. I had to gather more food because of her. "Cheer up, Grumpy. These belong to someone else." "Relax. I would choke if I had another. Besides, it would be very unladylike to be eating so much." The heron had a way with words that was so distracting. "Tell you what, Big Bear, you know, I always see you there. You was always looking so serious reaching for them books. I didn't think you was any good at catching food. My name's Joe. What's yours?" "Ooh, interesting. Boating for beginners, sailing made easy, escape from the ordinary. Are you going somewhere, Big Bear?" "Jules. That's what family and friends call me." "See you next Friday, Jules." Chapter 4. The Lamp. For a couple of days, I couldn't stop wondering about that heron. It was quite funny that her name was also Joe. One night, I had a peculiar dream. I dreamt I was a huge eagle flying over town, and I saw a heron walking out of her house, and so I swooped down and pooped over her. This made her go back and wash her head. I waited on the roof, and as she came out again, I pooped over her again, and she went back crying inside, and I thought that was the funniest thing I ever did. That Friday was Uncle's last weekend with us. You can go sailing now, having read so many books. I stepped out earlier than usual to return the boating books. New titles just came in. Your favorite subject? The librarian winked. I nodded at him and hurried off to the water. Had enough of the giants? Still interested, but not today. I'll be carrying a lot of fish. I fished all afternoon, until sundown. But I didn't see Joe the heron this time around. The sky was overcast. By the time I reached Whitecliff, it was dark as night. But further along the footpath, close to a tree, I saw a glimmer of light. It was a bird holding up a lamp close to the ground. I got up closer and saw that it was Joe. Did you lose something? They're not here. What's not? Them little precious things, blue in color. She pointed the lamp at an empty nest. I wanted to look around a bit, but a house of hungry bears were waiting for me. Greedy bear? Joe pointed the lamp at me. Yes. I was just thinking about you earlier today. I knew you was going to be at the truck again borrowing them books. I just went to return them. We're having a going away party for a special family guest, so I'm bringing home more fish for him. Joe gave up looking and put down her lamp. You can join us for dinner if you like. I'll tell them you're my lady friend from the Riverside. This guest of yours, why is he so special? Oh, he's from way out there, and he's my uncle. That's it? Well, he's also the biggest bear I've ever seen, and he has his own ship. You really have a thing for boats and big things. That night we had a feast, and Joe was welcome to join us inside. We ate all the fish we could fit in our bellies, but Joe only had room for one big fish. Everyone went to bed satiated. Good night, Jules. That was good fishing. I'm off early tomorrow morning. Uncle, wait. I pulled out a folded paper inside my pillowcase. I showed him the map I got from Joe the Giant. Is this real? I asked. He chuckled. Wouldn't you like to know? My mind was lit like a lamp. I nodded in earnest. Chapter 5. The Sale. I don't know what Uncle told Mom and Dad. The following day, I was asked to pack my bag, eat an early breakfast, and join my uncle for a trip. I was so excited. I finished my breakfast in just a few minutes. Soon, I was off, and Dad handed me a tin box with a ribbon around it. Open it after you've boarded your uncle's little ship. I hurried down whistling as I came closer to the shore. Joe the heron could hear me from afar. "Oh, you're up early. What did I miss? Is it Friday already?" "I'm going on a trip with Uncle to see Way out there." Joe swooped down. "Oh, wow! A vacation? For how long?" "I don't know. Do you think you'll see one of them giants? I've actually met one of them 6 years ago, and her name was Joe. Joe from way out there." "You're making this up, Bear." "No, look. She tore this from her red book. That was the last time I saw her here. I don't know what happened, why she stopped visiting. Perhaps I'll find out." "This Joe from way out there, what does she look like?" "Big and scary." I raised my arm and stretched my face. "Good luck. Don't get lost at sea." I looked back at the dock to wave goodbye, but Joe had already disappeared from sight. "How long does it take to sail from White Cliff to way out there?" I asked Uncle. "It depends." He squinted up the sky. "Hopefully the weather will be nice. 5 days at most." "Have you opened your father's gift?" "Oh no, not yet." I looked inside the tin and saw a pendant, gold and shiny. "Open the latch. It will give you a better sense of direction." "Oh, this looks familiar." I took out my map and matched the direction of the needle with it. "See where we're going? Way out there is over there." I pointed at the direction. "There, you got it. That's where we're headed." "Why is your friend following us?" "Look up." "Oh dear me, that was tiring. I thought I could follow you far enough to get a glimpse of the big land." "You're not built to fly long distance." Uncle tapped his pipe. "Yeah, you're a bit on the heavy side." "Ah, I'm built just right. This ocean is too big for my size." "Can you catch fish?" Uncle asked. "Why, yes, I'm quite good at that." "Oh, you're easy. You just found a way to pay for the ride." I smiled at Joe. "It's going to be a fun ride." Uncle looked at his watch. "Lunch is in 3 hours." "All right," Joe flapped her wings. "You just sit there and relax. Let me just catch my breath." Uncle stood up and handed me a fishing rod. "You too." I love fishing, but I prefer using my mouth and arms. It's so much more fun doing what Joe is doing. After what felt like 3 hours, something finally tugged at my string, and it was a strong one. I reeled it up with some difficulty and caught the biggest fish. Yuck! Way too big. Joe was not impressed. But nothing went to waste with 2 hungry bears. Lunch filled us up for the rest of the day. Chapter 6. The Stars. Wow! Joe gazed up. "Where's the moon gone?" I looked around. "It's in the shadow," Uncle answered. "Too bad it couldn't join the party," said Joe. "Look, when something is in the shadow, other things show up more brightly." Uncle turned off the lamp. "How old are you now?" 14. "Here, take a sip. It will warm you up." Uncle handed me his canteen. "You too." Uncle looked at Joe. "No thank yous. Thems are bad for your eyes." "Why? What happens to it?" I asked. "You start seeing things that aren't really there, as if they're actually there," Joe said. "Really?" I watched Uncle take another swig. "It's true," Uncle said. It's the great escape. I didn't completely understand what he meant, but it made me wonder what I'll end up seeing in the next few minutes. "Good night," he said, and off he went down the cabin. At that moment, I saw something quite odd. Joe's head. It was gone. I thought it was because of the drink, but Joe said, "Relax. You only had one sip." I was just positioning myself to sleep. It looked weird from behind. "Go to bed, Big Bear." I leaned on my back and positioned myself to rest. "Joe, what's it like to be soaring high above everyone else? Like looking up the stars from sea level, everyone appearing like tiny little dots." "But it's not the same. Stars are a lot bigger than any of us," I said. "It must feel nice to have wings and soar high above everyone." "Oh, Big Bear, having wings also means everyone else is more grounded than I am." Joe had a way with words that was so distracting. I looked up the stars to connect the dots, but it was hard to make out shapes when every bit of space in the night sky was lit up. "It looks like every single star has come out to say hello to us." "Go to sleep, Big Bear." Chapter 7. The Monster. I woke up from the rocking motion of our little ship. It was daytime, but it looked like night. "Looks like we're under the weather. Where's your uncle?" I checked the cabin and tried to wake him up, but he was in it too deep. "We're on our own," I told Joe. "Oh boy." Joe tried to keep herself from slipping off the cockpit. "What shall we do?" I thought. "Not die would be good." Joe pointed at the sail. "No one should be flying in this weather." Joe had a way with words that was so familiar. She reminded me of what I read in the boating books, but she said it so much better. I fastened the rudder and shortened the sail. "Aren't you glad you read them books back on White Cliff?" "Yes, it just looks a little different when it's actually happening." The ship felt like a roller coaster and a rocket on free fall at the same time. There was a whole chapter in each of the books I read devoted to bad weather. I thought about Joe and my uncle in the cabin. They would be counting on me to do something. This was one monster weather. Waves thrashed us on every side. But so far, no one's died. I thought we'll survive. Until I saw a great seawall rise. It had the scariest face I'd ever seen. I climbed up the mast and screamed, "Hold your breath!" With one big splash, I saw the whole ship completely disappear. I thought I'd never see it again. Then the ship emerged from the water, and it was as if we had just passed the edge of the monster. The ship was now an even keel. Joe checked herself and flapped her wings. I slid back down and shook off the water. For a while, we stood still, until we saw strong shadows cast by the sunlight. "You think your uncle will get mad if lunch was served at a later hour?" "Ah!" I rushed down the cabin to check on him. Chapter 8. Way out there. 3 days passed since the big monster hit. It was smooth sailing since. Uncle recovered from his concussion when he got knocked about in the cabin. Joe caught a lot of fish and kept telling him, "Eat this, you'll think better in the morning." "Why are you so good at this?" I asked while waiting to bait fish. Joe's eyes were fixed on the water. She snapped in a split second and caught another. "I don't know. It just feels easy and natural. Tell you what, sometimes I hunt gophers in the field, and then I leave them on the side, just for kicks." "What? What a waste," I said. "Oh, don't be a cutie pie. It doesn't last. There'd be always footprints to be found around the missing catch." So that's why you're so popular around Riverside. Here, catch." Joe flew up the mast as I enjoyed my snack. She caught sight of a bit of land. Big bear, look! Over there! I followed her flight towards the shore. As we approached the beach, I told Uncle about the storm. I told him I was actually not sure what to do, even though I had read so many books. Why didn't you wake me? It was impossible. You've escaped already. Uncle laughed. It's always the good stuff that gets me through a storm. Big bear, Joe called out. Not you, she shook her head at Uncle. Big bear, I think that mountain up there is a giant. Uncle handed me my bag. Go on, I'll be here when you're done. So excited, I hurried off with Joe to see the stone giant. Excuse me, big sir. Are there more of yous out here? We're all over the place, 3 other voices said. The entire mountain was alive. It had 3 other heads on the other side. I'm looking for this giant. The first head looked at my drawing, but kept silent. Excuse our brother, said the second head. Don't be rude. Tell us what you see, the third added. Looks like a giant driftwood to me, the first head said. I met her 6 years ago, I said. She used to visit Whitecliff quite often. Sounds like our sister, said the fourth head. She's always stretching her legs. See where the river bends next to the bridge? Said the first head. Go there, said the second. You'll find a giant who knows where she is, said the third. Tell her you're from Whitecliff, said the fourth. She'll give you a free lift. Off we went. Joe was ahead and called out from the air. Keep going, we're almost there. I looked up and saw Joe fade into white. Chapter 9. The Fog. A giant fog swept through the river. Just keep to the same direction, Joe yelled. I opened my compass to check my orientation. It was reassuring to keep the needle pointing at the same direction, but I had no idea where I was going to end up. The fog was so thick, it felt like it was sniffing through every part of me. Are you lost? A voice said. No, I know where I'm going. Okay, I guess you don't need me then. Wait, who are you? I am the friend of whoever is lonely. I was scared, but the voice had a comforting tone, 2 octaves lower than my own, so I kept talking to it. I'm walking towards the bridge where the river bends, but it's just a little hard to see right now, so I'm not so sure if I'm on the right path. Are you not from around here? I'm from Whitecliff. Ah, the land held up by a great giant. Yes, that's what I've been told, but I've never seen. What brings you all the way here? I met a giant tree who visited Whitecliff. She told me about this land where big things live. That got me reading a lot of books about giants that did big things. And I want to learn how to do the same thing. I checked my compass and continued walking. Why? Why do the same thing? Because it's awesome, and everybody talks a lot about it. Ah, that explains it. Explain what? I said. Why you never saw the great giant of Whitecliff. I was puzzled. If it were there, I would have seen it by now. Did you look for it? I stopped in my tracks. I wasn't so sure where I was going anymore. Perhaps I wasn't looking hard enough. But nobody talks about that giant the same way they talk about all the giants from way out there. And how do they talk about them? In a very good way, with a lot of praise. Is that why you want to do big things? I got distracted and didn't watch where I was going. I thought you said you were a friend of whoever is lonely. What's the matter? I don't know how I'll find my way through this fog without my compass. Why do you need an instrument to tell you where to go? It's supposed to give me a better sense of direction. My dad gave it to me. Don't worry, it will clear up soon. I sat in silence for a while. A few minutes later, the fog left me behind, and then I saw train tracks. It led to a bridge with a bird perched on top of it. Joe! We exchanged a little grin. Chapter 10. Joe and Joe. Have you ever been in a fog, Joe? In it? No. I always seem to be flying over it, Joe said. Being in a fog is such a lonely place. I lost my compass in it. Oh no! How did you manage to come through? I heard a great voice asking a lot of questions. That made me think of things I hadn't considered before. Did you get scared? Joe asked. I did at first. I felt like a tiny little ant, lost in a big world. But then I found comfort listening to the great voice in the fog. It was what kept me moving forward. Did you ask it where you can find your big tree friend? What's the name of this big tree? A voice echoed through the tunnel. We spotted 2 blinking eyes next to the hole on the mountain. Jo's her name, I said. She's an old friend I met in White Cliff. Oh, my sister is quite a big tree, and her name is also Jo. Could you help us find her? I asked. Take that train, then get off at Big Balloon Lake. She won't be hard to spot once you get there, the giant advised. It won't stop for you, warned the giant. Get on it now. Jo followed me in flight. She alerted me when we reached the lake. The sight was hard to miss. The water was electric blue with balloons around it. It won't stop for you. Get off it now, Jo said. I looked down and hesitated. Just shut your eyes and jump, Jo yelled. Come, I think I know where she is. I followed Jo towards the woodland, but the tall trees obscured my vision. I turned to an opening and looked for a sign. I see you finally made a friend. Jo the giant shifted her gaze to her right. I told her you've been reading them books, dreaming of this day to be way, way out there, said Jo the heron. Did you find what you're looking for? Jo the giant asked. I smiled. Why did you stop visiting White Cliff? I grew up, Jo winked, and I started doing big, big things. How fun, I thought. I also want to do something big when I grow up. Like what? Jo the giant asked. I don't know yet, but I thought I'd figured it out when I got here. Do you want to do something too big to ignore? Or something too big to see? Too big to see? I was intrigued. Oh, Big Bear, you are up for a surprise when you get home. Jo the heron had a way with words that sometimes made me wince. She made me recall my conversation in the fog. This place feels like a dream, I said. A good one or a bad one? Jo the giant asked. In between, I said. The sky was red. Jo and I watched the sunset. This is the farthest I've ever been from White Cliff, I told my friends. Chapter 11. The Night Giant. Are you having fun? Jo the heron asked. I nodded. Like no other book I've read. Hold on. Jo the giant started walking and gave us a tour across the woodland. She was the tallest tree in the forest. We could see every other treetop from up where we were. She stopped walking when we reached the edge of the lake. Look over there, Joe the giant pointed east. We saw a large looming silhouette emerge from behind a mountain. It carried up a great ball of light. Wow, I gaped at the largest moon I'd ever seen. Who is that? Joe the heron asked. Nobody knows his name, Joe the giant said. He likes to hide behind that mountain and only comes out to lift up the moonlight. He must be so big to reach that high, I wondered. Super, Joe the giant said. His height increases every time he gives away that light. I've never seen an evening this bright. We looked around and saw other animals. Birds of different feathers and their nests. Look at them, little precious things. Joe pointed at hatchlings. I remembered Joe searching around an empty nest with her lamp on White Cliff. Did you ever find them? I asked. Nuh-uh. Joe shook her head. It was too dark a night. Joe, and I gazed up at the big shiny orb of the sky. I thought about going back home to White Cliff. Next time, I told Joe, I'll bring an extra lamp. Chapter 12. The Great Giant. The next morning, Joe the giant gave us a ride back to shore. Smoke was coming out of Uncle's boat when we arrived. Did you enjoy your day on the big land? Uncle yelled over his frying pan. Before I could answer, Joe swooped down and pecked on Uncle's eyelids. I was confused. Them's are precious little things, Joe said, and gave Uncle a stern look. I looked at Joe, feeling a little scared. I'm done hitching a ride on that ship, she said. Joe the giant nodded towards the direction of White Cliff. I feel like stretching my legs today. I looked down at my uncle, who was climbing back up his little ship. Tell your father all about the trip, Jules. But this part you can skip. Uncle shook off the water and resumed cooking his eggs. Joe, and I crossed Big Ocean. Joe was quiet the entire time, perched over Joe's arm. I also didn't know what to say. It was a magnificent sight from up where we were. We saw where the giant weather monster waited for boats to push around. Then, with just a few more strides, we saw the white wall of White Cliff. But this time, I was able to make out the shape of the giant that held up the entire island. It was bent over with the island on its back. Its eyes followed us as Joe positioned her trunk for me to climb down. The giant had chiseled eyes and an expression that shone like light. See that, Jules? Joe landed on my side. It's often overlooked. Too big to see. We looked at it in admiration. It had been there all along, holding up the land I call home. It knows it's doing something praiseworthy, and that's all that matters to it. Joe had a way with words. And this time now, I took the hint. Joe accompanied me up the hill, back to our house on White Cliff. Mom and Dad were waiting for me by the porch. How was it, Jules? They cried from afar. What's it like to have gone way out there? Fantastic, I said. Like waking up from a dream.